In the dark corner of the galaxy, there was a place no one wanted to go. They called it the Forbidden Zone. It was silent, empty, and cold. No trade routes passed near it. No colonies were built close to it. For thousands of years, strange stories were told about that region. Some said whole fleets vanished there. Some said it was haunted by a ghost ship from a forgotten war. The Galactic Council never spoke about it, but the stories never died. One night, deep in the control chambers of the Council, a signal appeared. It was weak, broken, but real. A pulse of energy came from the Forbidden Zone. The signal was not like any modern code. It was old, very old. The machines analyzed it, and the answer made the room fall silent. The code was human. The council members looked at each other. Humanity was gone from the galaxy for almost 1,000 years. Their worlds were empty ruins. Their fleets were dust. How could a human signal still exist? Some members said it was a trick. Others said it was a trap. But a few old voices remembered the ancient stories. They spoke of a warship, a massive one, built in the last days of humanity. A ship that vanished before the final wars. They said it was sent to the edge of space to guard something. Could it still be there? The council argued for hours. Some wanted to ignore it. Why wake the ghosts of the past? One elder said. Others feared what would happen if someone else found it first. The decision was made, a small scout fleet would go. Not a war fleet, just fast ships with strong sensors. They would scan the zone and return quickly. No fighting. No noise. Just answers. 3 days later, the scout fleet entered the dark region. The stars here seemed colder. Space was full of debris, broken stations, dead satellites, and twisted metal from long-lost wars. The ships moved slowly, their lights cutting through the black. "Keep your sensors sharp," the captain ordered. No risks. Hours passed, and the crew felt the weight of the stories. Their scanners picked up strange readings, shapes that moved, then vanished. Old human writing floated on a broken panel they found drifting, Project Sentinel. The younger crew members did not understand, but the older ones froze when they heard the name. Sentinel was the name whispered in the old tales. A ship that could erase fleets. A ship built for a war humanity never won. As they moved deeper, the signal grew stronger. It was a heartbeat now, slow, steady, like something waiting. "Captain, the source is near," the sensor officer said. The crew stared at the dark space ahead. There was nothing there, just empty stars. But the signal was clear. They sent out a probe. It went silent in seconds. No explosion. No damage. Just silence. Then the lights in the fleet flickered. Engines slowed for a moment. A chill ran through the crew. "Is it the zone?" Someone whispered. Suddenly, their long-range scanners caught a shadow. It was huge, much larger than their ships. Its shape was unclear, hidden by dust and cold gases. But it was there. A presence that did not move, yet felt alive. The captain ordered full scan, but the scanners failed. They returned only one word: error. The shadow remained, like a giant in the dark, watching them. "Could it be the legend?" the first officer asked. No one answered. Then it happened. A low sound echoed through the communication system, like a deep pulse. It was not language at first, only noise. Then slowly, it formed words. Old words. Human words. "Do not come closer." The message repeated. The crew felt their blood run cold. 1,000 years had passed since the last human voice was heard in this part of space. Now a voice warned them away. The captain wanted to leave, but the council had ordered them to find the truth. "We will record everything," he said. "One last scan, then we go." The fleet turned its lights toward the shadow, and for a moment, they thought they saw metal. Black, scarred, ancient metal. Towers, cannons, long wings stretched like a predator waiting in the dark. It was not a ghost. It was a ship. A warship. The heartbeat signal grew louder. Systems began to shut down again. The youngest crew members started to panic. "Captain, we are being jammed. We cannot send our report," the communication officer cried. The captain clenched his fists. They had come too close. Something had seen them. Lights flickered again, this time, not theirs. Far ahead, deep in the shadow, faint red lights turned on one by one. They were like eyes opening after a long sleep. The legend was not dead. It was waking up. The scout fleet never made it back to the main council worlds. Days passed, and no message came from the Forbidden Zone. The council chambers filled with whispers and fear. At first, they thought it was a delay. Then, they believed it was a malfunction. But soon, the silence became too heavy. High lords and admirals argued. Some said, "We should never have sent them. The legends warned us." Others demanded answers. If something is truly there, hiding in that dark region, then we must know. We cannot let ghosts control our future. A single broken transmission finally arrived. It was full of static and noise. Only one image was clear, a dark shape, massive, with faint red lights. The rest of the message was unreadable. It ended with the same warning that the scout fleet had heard. "Do not come closer." The voice was human. Not synthetic. Not alien. Human. After 1,000 years of their extinction, this voice was alive. Rumors spread across the stars. Traders whispered about it in spaceports. Old soldiers muttered the name, Sentinel. The young laughed, saying it was just old war propaganda. But the old knew better. They remembered how humanity fought their last wars, not with numbers, but with creations no one else dared to build. Weapons that changed space itself. Ships that fought like gods. And one ship that disappeared. The council tried to contain the news, but it was too late. Small fleets began avoiding the Forbidden Zone. Civilian ships changed routes. Even pirate bands spoke of a shadow in the dark. The fear was not loud. It was quiet, heavy, growing like a storm no one could see. In a small council room far from the main halls, a group of archivists studied the broken signal. They were historians, not soldiers. They dug deep into ancient records, searching for a match. After days of work, they found something, a classified project from humanity's final century. The name, Project Sentinel. It was said to be a mobile fortress, part warship, part guardian, built to hold the line when all else failed. The records were incomplete. The last note only said, "Launched beyond the outer rim. Mission unknown." Now that same name had returned. The archivists warned the council, "If that ship is truly awake, it may not serve you. It may not serve anyone. It was built for a different age, a different war." The council ignored the warning. Power blinded them. If this ship still worked, its technology could change the balance of the galaxy. Whoever controlled it could rule the stars. A second expedition was planned. This time, not a scout fleet. This time, a fleet with teeth. Cruisers, destroyers, and carriers. A full strike group. "We will not lose more ships to shadows," the Supreme Admiral said. "We will take what is inside that zone. Or we will burn it." But far away, in the cold dark, something was already moving. The Forbidden Zone was not empty. Faint energy trails glowed where no ship had passed in centuries. Wreckage from the First Fleet drifted silently, lights broken, hulls torn. And among them, a single drone floated, ancient yet alive. It watched the wrecks, then turned its sensors toward the stars. A whisper of code passed through the void, intrusion detected. Defense protocol. Continuing. In the ruins, some survivors still floated in escape pods. They whispered prayers, their oxygen low, their minds broken. They spoke of red lights like eyes. They spoke of a shadow that did not fire until they came too close. One survivor, half mad, recorded his final words, "It waits. It remembers. It does not want to be found." His pod drifted into the darkness, never reaching a safe port. The Council's Second Fleet did not wait for rescue missions. They armed themselves with the newest weapons, shields, and AI warbrains. Thousands of crew members were forced to join the mission. Many were afraid, but none dared speak. Orders were orders. Before departure, a young officer named Kale read the old myths. He did not laugh like others. He felt something strange in those stories, a warning, not just a tale. His grandmother once told him, humans were not like the others. They built things they should not have. They fought wars even when they were already dying. Kale looked at the star map. The Forbidden Zone waited like a wound in space. As the fleet engines roared to life, the galaxy held its breath. Traders stopped near the borders. Civilizations watched from afar. The stories of the past had become alive again. Somewhere beyond those dead stars, a human warship waited, silent, scarred, watching. And in the deepest part of that darkness, red lights flickered once more. Not many. Just a few. Like the first sparks of a sleeping giant. It did not move yet. It did not attack. It only waited, patient as time itself. The whispers of the past were no longer whispers. They were warnings. And no one was listening. The Second Fleet entered the Forbidden Zone with weapons armed and orders clear. They were told not to fear the shadows, not to believe in ghost stories. Their mission was simple: find the source of the signal, secure it, or destroy it if it resisted. The fleet was larger than any force sent before. Dozens of cruisers, carriers with fighter wings, and command ships carrying the most advanced AIs the galaxy could make. But even with their strength, an unease followed them like a cold wind. The crew whispered to each other in the corridors. They had all heard the tales of the missing scout fleet. They had seen the blurry image of that dark shape with glowing red lights. Some called it a relic, others a trap. But one thing was clear: nothing had ever returned from this zone unharmed. As their ships moved deeper, the stars seemed to fade. The light from the galaxy grew weak, and a heavy shadow covered the region. Strange debris floated past their scanners, fragments of ships too old to name, with markings no one could read anymore. The AI brains reported odd readings. Distances shifted without reason. Energy waves rippled in places where space should be empty. It was as if the zone itself was alive, bending their instruments. Captain Ryan of the lead cruiser stood on the bridge, his hands gripping the edge of the command table. "Keep formation," he ordered. "No heroics. We are not here to chase ghosts." But his voice betrayed a trace of tension. He remembered the message they had all heard: "Do not come closer." It played in his mind like an echo. For 2 days, the fleet searched in silence. Probes were sent ahead. Most came back empty. A few vanished without a trace. Then, on the 3rd day, they found it, or rather, it found them. The first sign was the sudden drop in temperature on several ships. Lights flickered, engines lost power for a few seconds, then returned. The crews reported hearing a low hum through the metal walls. Not from their engines, but from space itself. The hum turned into a pulse. The same heartbeat the scout fleet had reported. "Source detected," the sensor officer said. A large shadow appeared on their long-range scanners. At first, it looked like a cluster of rocks or abandoned stations, but as their ships turned toward it, the shape became clear. It was enormous. Longer than their biggest carriers, wider than their largest dreadnoughts. It did not match any known design. Its hull was black, scarred by ancient impacts, and along its sides were faint, blood-red lights. "It's asleep," one of the younger officers whispered. "Prepare to scan," Captain Ryan ordered. "No weapons. Just scan." The moment their sensors touched the object, the fleet shuddered. Power dropped again, this time for longer. Alarms rang on half the ships. The AI brains began shutting down one by one, claiming external interference. And then, the voice came. It was the same voice as before. "Human. Calm. Cold. Do not come closer." The message repeated 3 times. Then silence. "Open a channel," the admiral said from the flagship. "We are the Galactic Council fleet. Identify yourself." No answer. The shadow remained still. Only the faint red lights glowed. A group of fighters was sent ahead to circle the object. They moved slowly, their lights scanning the surface. One of them reported strange markings, old Earth language, carved deep into the armor. The translation came through, "Sentinel." At that moment, the shadow moved. Not fast, not loud. Just a slow turn, like a giant awakening from sleep. Its front section shifted, revealing something long and sharp, an ancient weapon, now pointing directly at the fleet. "Shields up!" the admiral shouted. The fleet scrambled into combat positions. Fighters pulled back, cruisers formed a wall, and energy shields flared to life. "Is it charging weapons?" the tactical officer asked. The sensors could not read it. Their data was blank. It was like staring at a hole in space. Then, for the first time, a different message came. The voice was the same, but this time it was not just a warning. It said, "Leave now. Last warning." The council commanders debated quickly. Some wanted to retreat. Others argued they had come too far to turn back. Greed and fear fought in their minds. They had brought this massive force to capture the legend, and they believed numbers would protect them. "Proceed," the admiral decided. "Form an attack line. We will see how strong this ghost really is." The warship did not move again, but the red lights along its hull began to brighten. Energy waves rippled outward, faint but growing. Systems across the fleet began to flicker. The hum grew louder. The hum became a roar. The first contact had begun. The shadow began to wake. Across its massive hull, lines of deep red light slowly came alive like veins of fire under ancient armor. The alien fleet froze as the glow spread, revealing long scars, broken turrets, and towers that reached like the spines of a beast. For a moment, there was no sound, no movement. Only the silent turning of the giant ship as it faced them completely. It was older than anything they had ever seen, yet it moved with purpose. The message they had heard before echoed again, but this time the voice was sharper, colder. "You were warned." On the bridge of the flagship, the admiral stood stiff. His eyes locked on the growing lights. "Hold formation," he ordered. "We will not fire first." But his voice cracked. Everyone on the bridge could hear the fear he tried to hide. Captain Rhine of the lead cruiser whispered, "Admiral, our systems are unstable. We may not get another chance to leave." The fleet waited. Fighters hovered near the edges of their formation. Cruisers charged their shields, and carriers armed their drones. The AI warbrains kept reporting errors, unable to read the ship's energy. It was as if the human warship was invisible to their technology, yet it was right in front of them. Then the warship moved again. Massive cannons unfolded along its sides, ancient but still functional. Strange energy rippled around them, energy that did not match any known weapon signature. It was not plasma, not laser, not railgun. It was something else, something old and deadly. A sudden wave of force spread across the battlefield. Every alien ship shook as if hit by a storm. Some lost power for seconds, some for minutes. Communications became static. "What is it doing?" shouted one officer. "It's not attacking, it's testing us." The admiral made his choice. Open fire. All forward batteries. Dozens of ships unleashed their weapons. Beams of light, missiles, and explosive rounds flew across the void, hitting the massive silhouette. Explosions covered its hull, but when the smoke cleared, the warship still floated, untouched. The weapons had burned against its shields like rain against stone. Then the warship answered. A single cannon at its center came alive. It fired only once. A beam of dark red energy shot forward, slicing through 3 cruisers in a single line. There was no explosion, no fire, just silence, then drifting wreckage. Panic filled the alien fleet. "Retreat!" one captain cried over the channel. It's too strong. But the admiral refused. No. We hold the line. Focus fire. The warship's lights grew brighter. More cannons turned. It did not rush. It did not chase. It fired again, and again. Each shot erased another ship. It was not a battle. It was a warning turned into punishment. Inside the fleet, officers began to question everything. "This cannot be only a warship," said Captain Rhine. "It fights like it knows us. Like it knows what we will do before we do it." And indeed, the warship moved with strange intelligence. It blocked escape routes before they could form. It jammed communications seconds before the fleet tried to send distress signals. It was not just fighting, it was controlling the field. One desperate captain launched a squadron of bombers directly at the warship's core. They flew through the glowing red fog, screaming as they went. The warship did not fire at them. Instead, a wave of invisible force hit them, and their ships went dead. Engines shut down, lights faded, and they drifted silently until they crashed into the warship's hull, never to move again. The admiral's pride began to crack. "Pull back to Sector 9, he ordered. "We need more space." But as they turned, the warship shifted with them, its massive shadow gliding silently through the debris. It did not hurry. It hunted slowly, with patience. A new message came through. The same human voice, calm and cold. "You were told not to come. This zone is sealed. Leave now, or none of you will return." The admiral tried to respond, but the channel cut off. Their signals were useless now. Around the edges of the battlefield, smaller alien ships began to flee without orders. Panic spread like fire. Discipline broke. The warship fired again, striking down another cruiser with surgical precision. Captain Rhine turned to his crew. "If we stay, we die. If we run, maybe we live." No one answered. Fear had taken their words. The fleet was breaking apart, and the warship was just beginning to move. The Second Fleet never returned. Weeks passed, and only broken fragments of their last transmission reached the Galactic Council. The messages were short and filled with static, screams, warnings, and one clear voice saying, "We cannot win. It knows us." After that, silence. The Council could no longer hide the truth. Too many ships were gone, too many families demanded answers. Whispers became shouts. The legend of the human warship was no longer a story told in dark corners. It was now a shadow over the entire galaxy. The High Lords gathered in the Grand Hall. The atmosphere was tense, heavy with anger and fear. Some called for retreat, saying the Forbidden Zone should be sealed forever. Others demanded action, arguing that leaving such a weapon alive was too dangerous. "If that ship chooses to leave its zone," one lord warned, "no force in our current fleets can stop it. We must act now, or live in its shadow forever." Pride and fear worked together that day. In the end, the Council chose war. They ordered the creation of the largest fleet ever assembled. Hundreds of warships were summoned from across the galaxy. Dreadnoughts, carriers, heavy cruisers, and escort frigates. Entire shipyards were emptied. Millions of soldiers and officers were called to duty, whether they wished to fight or not. This new armada was named Spear of Dawn. Its mission was simple: enter the Forbidden Zone, destroy the ancient warship, or bring its power to the Council by force. Many in the galaxy celebrated the decision. They believed numbers would triumph where smaller fleets had failed. Others remained silent, knowing the old stories did not speak of numbers, they spoke of something unstoppable. Among the chosen officers was Kale, the young officer from the Second Fleet's planning room. He had warned them before, but no one listened. Now he stood aboard the flagship Glory of Stars, watching the massive fleet prepare for departure. His heart was heavy. He had read the reports, the broken signals, the legends. He knew what they faced was not an ordinary enemy. The armada departed with a thunder that shook the stars. Hundreds of engines burned as one. Across the galaxy, people watched the spectacle. Traders recorded the moment, soldiers saluted, Politicians smiled for the cameras. The council promised a swift victory. They called the warship a relic, a sleeping beast that will fall under our command. But in the dark of the Forbidden Zone, the warship already knew they were coming. Its sensors reached far beyond normal space. It had been silent for 1,000 years, yet its mind was still awake, still watching. The red lights along its hull flickered slowly, like the eyes of a predator waiting for its prey to enter the trap. Days passed as the massive fleet crossed the borders of the Forbidden Zone. At first, the space was calm. Stars burned dim, but no threat appeared. Crews began to relax slightly, some mocking the legends, saying, "It's only fear that kills. There is nothing here." Then the signs began. Shadows moved where no ships were. Probes vanished. Drones malfunctioned. Long-range sensors reported strange distortions ahead. Some captains requested to slow down, to scan more carefully. The admiral in command refused. "We are too many to be hunted," he said proudly. "We move forward as planned." Cale felt the old chill return. He stood by the window, watching the empty dark. "It is watching us," he whispered. No one replied. By the fourth day, they reached the central sector where the other fleets had disappeared. Wreckage floated everywhere. Broken hulls, shattered engines, silent escape pods. It was a graveyard of their own kind. The fleet stopped for the first time. Silence filled the channels. Even the admiral said nothing. Then the signal came again. The same heartbeat, slow and steady. The same voice, now colder than before. "You were warned. You sent more. Now you will learn." Lights flickered across the warship's shadow in the distance. It was waiting for them. This time, it did not hide behind dust or gas. It moved forward slowly, its massive form blotting out the stars behind it. The fleet's weapons turned to aim. Shields flared to full power. Fighters launched in clouds of metal wings. The admiral gave his order. "Prepare for engagement. We will not retreat." But deep in the hearts of many officers and soldiers, a single question burned. If two fleets could not survive its warning, what chance did they have, even with hundreds of ships? Cale whispered to himself as the warship's red lights grew brighter. "We are not the hunters here. We are the prey." And somewhere, far in the ancient ship's core, a system long dormant came alive. Massive cannons turned. Energy fields rose. The awakening was complete. The Armada faced the dark giant in the cold heart of the Forbidden Zone. Hundreds of alien warships floated in perfect formation, their weapons ready, their shields glowing like a wall of light. Yet the warship did not rush. It came slowly, gliding through the debris like a shadow that owned the void. Its red lights burned brighter now, tracing the scars across its ancient armor. To the watching officers, it looked less like a machine and more like a living thing, a predator that had finally woken after a long sleep. The admiral raised his hand and gave the order. "All ships, fire at will." The sky exploded. Beams of plasma, streams of missiles, and torrents of energy rained toward the ancient warship. For a moment, the dark space was lit like a new sun. The blast shook the nearby wreckage and sent shockwaves through the dust clouds. But when the light cleared, the warship still moved forward, untouched. The weapons of hundreds of ships had done nothing but scratch its armor. Then the warship answered. A single pulse of energy rippled from its core, silent, invisible, and terrifying. It passed through the fleet like a wave of cold wind. Engines died. Shields cracked. Entire wings of fighters went dark and drifted helplessly. Crews shouted over broken channels, trying to restart their systems. Cale gripped the rail on the command deck. "It is not fighting like us," he said quietly. "It is hunting us." The warship fired its main cannon. One beam, dark red and sharp as a blade, cut through 5 cruisers in a single sweep. There was no sound, only a chain of explosions and drifting metal. The survivors screamed as they saw their fleet cut apart like paper. Panic spread. Captains began to break formation. Some fled toward the edges of the zone. Others fired blindly. The admiral shouted orders to hold the line, but few listened. The warship moved again, this time with more speed. It appeared behind a carrier group, its smaller weapons flaring like knives of light. In seconds, 3 carriers were gone, their fighter bays exploding in fire. Messages filled the channels, "Our weapons are useless. Shields collapsing. Requesting retreat." The warship sent a message at last. The same human voice, now louder. "Leave this place. Final warning." But the Council fleet could not simply leave. Their engines were jammed. Navigation was blinded by false signals. The zone itself had become a trap, a cage built long ago for this very purpose. The more they fought, the deeper they fell into the trap. Kale saw the truth. "It is not just a warship," he whispered. "It is a gatekeeper." Around the giant ship, strange shapes began to appear. Automated drones, old and rusted, but still deadly. They launched from hidden bays, swarming like metallic insects. They attacked fleeing ships, disabling engines, forcing them to drift back toward the giant. The admiral made his final call. "All ships, scatter. Survive if you can." The armada broke apart completely. Chaos ruled the void. Ships rammed each other in panic. Fighters were lost in the dark. The warship moved through them with silent grace, destroying only those who resisted. It did not chase the ones who fled far. It let them go, like a hunter releasing a few prey to carry the story back. Kale's cruiser took a hit that tore through its rear engines. Sparks filled the command deck. "We are losing power," an officer cried. "Prepare escape pods." Kale shouted back. But even as they prepared, the warship turned its red gaze upon them. For a moment, he felt its presence. Not just a machine, but something that remembered. A ship with memory, with purpose, with anger older than their empires. Then the beam fired again. His ship spun into the dark, alarms screaming, hull breaking. He grabbed the emergency recorder and whispered, "This is not a weapon. This is a warning to the galaxy. Do not follow." Escape pods launched as the cruiser cracked apart. Around them, the void burned with wreckage. The once proud Spear of Dawn was now a field of broken light. Far behind, the warship slowed once more. It did not chase the last survivors. Its red lights dimmed a little, as if its hunger was satisfied for now. But its voice came one final time. "Tell them. Earth remembers." And then it turned away, gliding deeper into the shadows, leaving only fire in the void. The Forbidden Zone was silent again, but the galaxy was not. The wreckage of the Great Armada floated like a graveyard among the stars, and only a few survivors escaped its reach. Their ships were damaged, their voices broken, their minds filled with terror. They carried a single message across the stars: the legend was real, and it was awake. The Galactic Council tried to silence them at first, hiding the truth with lies, but the rumors moved faster than their orders. Traders whispered in markets, captains shared the story in hidden channels, and ordinary citizens spoke of a warship that hunted fleets like wolves hunted sheep. The name, Sentinel, returned to every corner of the galaxy. Some said it was a ghost. Others called it Earth's vengeance. No one truly understood what it wanted. It did not conquer. It did not invade. It only watched and destroyed those who entered its zone. But now, with 2 fleets gone, a deeper fear spread. What if it did not stay in the zone forever? Kale's escape pod drifted for days before rescue came. He was weak, his body scarred, his voice hoarse from shouting warnings no one wanted to hear. When they brought him before the council, he stood in the great hall, facing the same high lords who had sent thousands to die. "You cannot fight it," he said. "You cannot trap it. It is older than your fleets, older than your empire. It remembers the war you all forgot." The High Lords argued among themselves. Some still wanted to raise another fleet, to strike again. Others finally spoke of leaving the Forbidden Zone sealed forever. But even as they debated, reports began to appear from distant systems. Stations claimed to see shadows near their edges. Merchant convoys reported red lights far behind them, always distant, never close. Small patrol ships vanished near uncharted regions, their last signals carrying a faint heartbeat sound. It was moving. Not fast, not openly, but it was no longer sleeping. The warship had left its graveyard. It drifted through the silent routes, studying, watching, choosing. Some said it was hunting those who betrayed humanity long ago. Others believed it was scouting for something far greater, a path, a target, or perhaps a signal from its makers. Cale knew the truth was worse than any rumor. He had felt it in the void, that moment when its gaze fell upon his ship. It was not a mindless weapon. It was something that remembered commands. Something that still followed a mission. A mission no one alive understood. In the outer colonies, fear turned to preparation. Old alliances whispered of defense plans. Secret research began to copy the fragments of human technology found on wrecks long ago. Some wanted to learn from the Sentinel. Others wanted to hide from it. The galaxy was dividing not with war, but with dread. One night, far from the great capitals, a small research vessel discovered something near a dead star. It was a map, broken, old, burned into a drifting human probe. The map showed dozens of marked zones, scattered across the galaxy. Each marked with the same ancient sign, a circle and a single red line through it. Beneath the marks was a message in Old Earth language: units deployed. Status: dormant. The researchers stared at it with shaking hands. If the map was true, the Sentinel was not the only one. There were more. Back in the council hall, Cale gave his final warning. This was not an accident. This was not the last of its kind. What you saw in the Forbidden Zone was only one shadow. The others may wake too. The High Lords fell silent at last. No one had the courage to speak. Outside their windows, the stars burned as always, but now they felt like watching eyes. Far away, in the cold paths between suns, the Sentinel warship glided silently. Its red lights were dim now, hidden like embers waiting for breath. It sent one last message, not to the Council, but to all who listened in the dark. Earth remembers. The reckoning is not over. And then it vanished, its massive form swallowed by the endless night. Some said it returned to its lair. Others believed it was already on its way to the next zone, the next empire that had forgotten the old wars. The galaxy did not sleep that night. For the first time in centuries, every race remembered the same fear. A fear that came not from invasion, but from the echo of a promise made long ago: humanity may fall, but its wrath will wait.